Some films tell a story, others drop you straight into an experience. This is an extreme case of the latter, a high-octane love letter to endurance racing, captured through the singular vision of Steve McQueen. This is Le Mans, a bold cinematic experiment and a tale of ambition, obsession, and disaster, both on and off the track. Returning viewers might be asking, hey, where's the horror? While I intend to keep this channel horror movie focused, once in a while I intend to review other awe-inspiring things, and this certainly fits that bill. The 24 Hours of Le Mans isn't just a race, it's an institution. Since 1923, this grueling event has tested both man and machine, demanding physical and mental endurance while requiring mechanical perfection. Unlike other races, Le Mans is about survival, strategy, and unrelenting focus, and Steve McQueen found its allure irresistible. Hollywood's acting icon, fashion icon, sex icon, and icon was also a lifelong racing enthusiast. He once said, "When I believe in something, I fight like hell for it." And fight he did, to bring the world's most iconic race to life on film like never before. In his own words, "I wanted to capture what it's all about, and I am not a compromiser." By the late 1960s, motorsport was enjoying a golden age. The intense rivalries between brands like Ford, Ferrari, and Porsche had electrified racing fans, and McQueen knew this era deserved an equally electrifying film. In 1969, McQueen's star power was at its peak. With films like The Magnificent Seven, The Great Escape, and especially Bullitt under his belt, the studio interest was guaranteed. He also knew the power of his fame and decided that from now on he chooses his own movies, who directs them, and if he wanted to do a racing film, no one would be able to stop him. However, he was annoyed someone got there before him. In 1966, John Frankenheimer had made Grand Prix, one of the most technologically advanced films of its time, for which it had received 3 Academy Awards. The film was starred by James Garner, who co-starred with McQueen in The Great Escape. They were also neighbors and did not really get along. McQueen's comment on Frankenheimer's film can be found in the 1969 conceptual documents of Le Mans, a prime example of a director playing with himself in public. The first person he contacted was the executive producer Bob Relia. They already had a lot of history and their relationship was very close. McQueen trusted him. However, after sharing his vision, Bob said that as much as you want it, passion doesn't mean shit in the movie business. McQueen's insistence on capturing the race authentically while paying minimal attention to the characters and the plot made studio executives really nervous. Additionally, filming would require access to the actual 24 Hours of Le Mans, real cutting-edge race cars, and extensive cooperation from both teams and manufacturers, including Ferrari, famously obsessive about protecting their brand. The project officially kicked off in 1970, with McQueen starring the film working with his trusted friend and director John Sturges, who helmed The Magnificent Seven and The Great Escape. Le Mans is the world's oldest endurance race, part of the motorsport's Triple Crown alongside the Monaco Grand Prix and the Indy 500. Unlike most races, teams can switch drivers during a pit stop while the car always remains the same. The track itself, Cirque de la Sarthe, is a brutal mix of public roads and purpose-built sections stretching almost 14 kilometers. The legendary 6-kilometer Mulsanne Straight once allowed some cars to hit 400 kilometers an hour before chicanes were added in 1990. Its history is also littered with tragedy. 22 driver fatalities, mostly in the 50s and 60s, including the horrific 1955 disaster where Pierre Levay's disintegrating Mercedes flew into the crowd at a speed of 200 kilometers an hour, killing 83 spectators and Levay himself. Le Mans has evolved, but its prestige remains. In 2024, 330,000 fans attended, and I watch it religiously from TV every year. The one weekend I tell my boss I'm unavailable, no exceptions. It is the greatest motor race in the world, and believe me, it's an endurance event for the viewer as well. At the heart of the movie stands Steve McQueen as Michael Delaney, an American racing car driver. A stoic, almost enigmatic presence, a reflection of McQueen's own persona. Cool, calculated, obsessed, and intensely focused. Now, McQueen's passion for motorsport went far beyond acting. He was a genuine racer who had competed in events like the 12 Hours of Sebring on a Porsche 908, which was as close to Le Mans you could get. He actually placed second despite racing with a leg that he had broken a week prior in a motorcycle accident.
I busted it in a motorcycle race, busted it in 6 places. And
what about shifting and clutching? It must be pretty difficult.
Well, it's a little difficult. I can't use a footrest. We've had to cut part of it off because I'm 5 1/8 inches across the bottom of my foot, and we've put some sandpaper on the bottom, taped it on so I keep it on the clutch pedal and adjusted it.
For McQueen, Le Mans wasn't a role, it was a mission. He enjoyed the competitive element of racing and the feeling of power. He stated that you learn a lot about yourself when you are in the race car by yourself.
Racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
His success in Sebring also brought in respect from genuine racing drivers, not as a film star, but as a racer. But McQueen wasn't the film's only star. Sharing top billing was this thing, the Porsche 917. Known for its sleek aerodynamic design and a cutting-edge 4.5-litre flat 12 engine, the 917 was Porsche's ticket to dominating endurance racing. The car's iconic Gulf livery with its powder blue and orange accents became synonymous with the golden age of motorsports. Porsche went all out designing the car. That included some quite revolutionary innovations like the use of titanium and a full magnesium chassis in later variants, with the tubular frame actually used as an oil line between the coolers and the engine. To keep the car as compact as possible while housing the large engine, the driver position was so far in front that the driver's legs would actually be ahead of the front axle. Even the gear knob was made out of birchwood to save weight. As an automotive engineer, this almost autistic attention to detail is something so compelling to me that I can't really describe it in words. In 1971 Le Mans, it covered 397 laps, 5,335 kilometers in 24 hours. This record held for 39 years before Audi raced an equal amount of laps in 2010, but did some extra kilometers thanks to the track being slightly longer. In Le Mans, the 917 wasn't just a prop, it was a character, filmed with reverence and often more prominently featured than the human cast. Real Porsche 917s were used during production. The most prominently displayed was the K variant, short for Kurzheck, short tail, and one Langheck, long tail variant that was significantly faster in a straight line, but notoriously unwieldy in the corners. Providing contrast to the Porsches was this thing, the Ferrari 512, the Italian antagonist, that was slightly heavier but also a bit more powerful and matched the speed of the Porsches really well. After learning what the end result of the movie's race would be, Porsche was more than happy to lend their race cars to the production, and the French organizers of Le Mans allowed the crew access to the circuits. Enzo Ferrari would accept nothing less than a Ferrari victory and declined to give access to his cars, but the crew managed to source the prancing horses from a privateer team. Filming began during the actual 1970 race. McQueen wanted to compete himself but was blocked due to safety reasons by the studio. The crew mounted cameras on the Porsche 908 McQueen had raced in Sebring, which raced as a rolling film rig. Afterwards, the crew originally had 12 weeks to stage the scripted sequences. With 26 race cars at their disposal, the filmmakers used genuine 917s, 512s and other high-performance machines, alongside modified vehicles like the obsolete Lola T70s, which were dressed up as Porsches and Ferraris for the crash sequences. The commitment to authenticity didn't stop there. The production enlisted legendary drivers like the 5-time Le Mans winner Derek Bell, 6-time winner Jackie Ickx, David Piper, Richard Atwood and Joe Siffert. They were paid $200 a day, which was a lot back then for a driver, and they were given Porsche 911s to drive around. It was unfortunately not all fun and games. Derek Bell suffered burns to his face when his Ferrari caught fire, while David Piper's Porsche blew a tire and crashed at Arnage Corner, splitting the car in two. Piper survived but lost his leg below the knee as a result of the crash. McQueen was devastated, knowing that his relentless pursuit of realism had probably led to this. He didn't have the courage to meet Piper face to face, and the two never met again, but a letter to the studio was later recovered where he had pleaded the premiere of the movie to be dedicated to Piper, and all the proceeds would go to him. This never materialized. Behind the scenes, McQueen's perfectionism created additional challenges. His insistence on capturing the visceral essence of Le Mans led to conflict, delays, and escalating costs. Many writers were working around the clock trying to compete who can actually write a revised script that McQueen would be happy with. He also insisted that he did not want to win the race, something the studio was not at all happy with. There are quite a few stories about McQueen's obsession with realism. He didn't even allow the makeup team to give him fake sweats, and demanded he would race a couple of laps before filming so he could get realistic sweats. Midway through production, creative tensions between the director Sturgis and McQueen reached a boiling point, as McQueen's relentless pursuit of realism clashed with Sturgis' need of narrative structure. Finally, Sturgis stormed out of the project, reportedly yelling that he is too rich and too old to put up with this shit. The next guy in line was Lee H. Katzin, still a relatively inexperienced director known for some TV series work like Bonanza. He wasn't old and rich and was chosen on purpose. He didn't contest McQueen's will, but tried to channel his passion into something that would actually get finished. Despite his efforts, the production spiraled out of control. In October, they were already 2 months behind schedule and $1.5 million over budget. As the actual Le Mans is raced in June, the crew actually had to paint the leaves of the surrounding trees to green to try to hide the fact they were actually racing in October. After losing a racing driver to injury and a director to frustration, McQueen also lost his wife, who left him after getting dead tired with his serial womanizing. You really can't blame her, as apparently during production McQueen was averaging a dozen girls a week. It's an endurance event after all. The studio was concerned about the film's commercial viability, and only the faith that this would be another McQueen hit kept them content. But in reality, the crew were working on the most expensive documentary in the world. Production finally wrapped on the 13th of November. And yes, it was Friday, I checked. The fears were justified, as Le Mans only grossed approximately $5.5 million at the box office, failing to recoup its costs. Despite its initial struggles, Le Mans has since been embraced as a cult classic, celebrated for its groundbreaking realism and its ability to transport viewers directly into the world of endurance racing. Filming the movie was the most personal and most difficult movie McQueen ever made, but it was also the happiest and most fulfilling time of his life. He lost many friends and his wife in the process, but probably cared more about the movie than anything else. It was the only movie he made that came from his heart, one passion project to define him as a man, actor and filmmaker. The story of Le Mans is as stripped down as its dialogue, focusing almost entirely on the race itself. Remarkably, it takes nearly 37 minutes before the first line of dialogue is spoken. At the center is Michael Delaney, a Porsche driver returning to the legendary 24 Hours of Le Mans after a harrowing crash the previous year. The accident claimed the life of another driver and left Delaney with lingering doubts. The film unfolds during the 1970 Le Mans, capturing the high-speed battle between the Porsche 917s and the Ferrari 512s. Delaney's primary rival is Ferrari driver Erich Stahler, whose intensity on the track pushes both men to their limits. The race itself is depicted in vivid detail, showcasing the grueling physical and mental demands of the event, as well as the endurance of the machines. Midway through the race, Delaney totals his car in a dramatic crash after a slower class Porsche appears in front of him after a corner. Despite this setback, Delaney stays involved, shifting his focus to supporting his Porsche teammates. As the race reaches its final hours, the competition intensifies, culminating in a thrilling showdown. In the end, Porsche secures victory, supported by Team Delaney. While Delaney himself does not win, his presence and determination play a key role in the team's success. Le Mans stands as a testament to the visceral allure of motorsport, capturing the raw essence of racing with unparalleled authenticity. Very few films come close, with the only true rival being the aforementioned Frankenheimer's 1966 film Grand Prix. It had revolutionary camera techniques, real racing footage, and exceptional sound design to immerse viewers in the world of motorsport. But in my opinion, it lacks something that McQueen's film has. It's hard to describe. Grand Prix is still a Hollywood drama film and it's about spectacle. Le Mans is about obsession. Grand Prix portrays racing. Le Mans is racing. While Ron Howard's Rush in 2013 made an honest effort to balance drama with authenticity, other films falter in truly understanding what it means to race. Take Ford vs. Ferrari, a fantastic movie experience no doubt, but its portrayal of the intricacies of driving a race car left quite a bit to be desired. And then there are movies like Gran Turismo and Rennie Harlin's Driven, which don't even deserve a mention when it comes to authenticity. Foregoing a traditional musical score, Le Mans allows the symphony of the engines to take center stage. The 12-cylinder power plants, like an orchestra of 12 trumpets, reach their crescendo at 8,000 RPM, enveloping the audience in a mechanical serenade that resonates with pure, unfiltered emotion. If you want to know what really fills my heart with song, just listen to this. Cylinders, the only engine fit for a gentleman. Sadly, in racing they are basically an extinct breed, until Aston Martin will bring the Valkyrie to Le Mans in 2025. A notable aspect of the film is its subversion of typical cinematic expectations. Audiences might anticipate that Delaney would emerge victorious. However, the narrative takes a more nuanced approach, with Delaney crashing and totaling his car during the race. It wasn't even something that was done to him, it was a lapse in concentration and a bit of bad luck. This moment, shocking and humbling, serves as a reminder of the inherent risks of motorsports and the thin line between triumph and disaster. And while he makes his return in another car, he is just in a supporting role. Regarding the portrayal of the accidents, editing during these scenes, particularly the Ferrari explosion and Delaney's crash, can feel a bit disjointed. These sequences, while aiming to convey the chaos and unpredictability of racing, may come across as abrupt and lacking the visual coherence seen in the other parts of the film. The use of mounted cameras on actual race cars brings audiences closer to the action. The thrilling first-person shots paired with the sweeping aerial views of Cirque de la Sarthe created a visual language that racing films still draw upon today. The combination of speed, danger and endurance was captured in a way that only one film of its time and none since have managed to replicate. It's important to recognize that Le Mans is a film crafted by a racing enthusiast for racing enthusiasts. Its focus on the minutiae of the sport, the sounds, the sights, racecraft, subtle mind games and the relentless pursuit of speed offer a deeply fulfilling experience for those passionate about racing. Conversely, viewers seeking a conventional movie experience complete with intricate character development and structured plots will find the film's approach much less engaging. Ultimately, Le Mans is less a traditional film and more a cinematic homage to the world of endurance racing. Though not without its flaws, it remains a defining work of its genre. There is also a wonderful documentary about the movie called Steve McQueen, The Man and Le Mans. It was quite difficult to find here in Europe, but I finally managed to get my hands on a Spanish import version with the on-screen text in Spanish. However, there is one more story I just have to add. A decade after the film wrapped, McQueen was diagnosed with terminal cancer in the lungs commonly connected to asbestos exposure. After the cancer metastasized, his body was riddled with large tumors. Doctors in the US refused to operate, so he flew to Mexico, desperately trying to find someone to at least try. He was Steve McQueen, he would go down fighting. He died on the operating table in a small clinic in Juarez on November 7, 1980. He was 50 years old. Before the operation, which he must have known would almost certainly be fatal, he had a copy of Le Mans shipped to him in Juarez, so he could watch it with the other patients for one last time. And that makes me stand in awe.